Good evening. This is Funton Daniel. Um, I am speaking live here from the great state of Texas, and I will be joined by one of the film actor, Mr. Blaise Christian. Based here in the United States, and he is already joining me live from Kigali, Rwandan capital. And you all know him, and so I am glad to see him joining me live in this broadcast. Maybe he has a lot of information to tell us about Kigali. Kigali is the Rwandan capital. There was one time I spoke about getaway destination, and I talked about the former war-torn Rwanda, but now it's really a getaway destination. And I think the film actor Christian Blaise Christian is joining me live from Kigali. He is based here in the United States, but he's in right now as we speak. He's in Kigali, capital uh, of Rwanda. So thank you joining me. He will introduce himself. Thank you.
My pleasure. I'm honored.
So
Okay, as I say, I'm in Kigali.
yeah.
I'm currently in Kigali, a very wonderful city, and it makes me proud to be African.
Uh, Thank you for and tell us more about. I know you're a film actor or cinema. What take you into cinema or acting? Uh, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, what took me into acting is because I wanted to tell my story. I wanted to tell other people's stories. I think that was I was trying to find a platform in order to tell my story. And I did realize that filmmaking was the best tool for me, but the best platform to tell a story. Because if you look at my movies, they only tell the reality. Sometimes the hidden realities of what we live, the untold story that we live, and try to display that. And also, my movies are very educative, combined with the comedy. So,
Thank you so much for that wonderful brief introduction. And I know you are physically in Kigali. So, what is particularly interesting you in Kigali, or Rwandan capital? And that are we expecting a new Brown movie, or what are we expecting?
first of all, I was looking for a country, an African country where there is, where just that headache. You remember, Rwanda has the reputation to have a good governance, and also the corruption is at the lowest, you know. And I think these were incentives, and these people they are very smart, very dedicated, very welcoming, and talented. So I came here in order to start producing movies, and working with them because I can tell that the youth here is very dynamic, and due to the fact that I'm not gonna encounter obstacles like corruption and all these things I have to go through, bribery that happens elsewhere. I think, and it's a beautiful place, clean. Never seen any place so clean like that, except for so clean, and they are very welcoming.
Well, thank you so much. And you talk about corruptions, and the corruptions is something that is so rampant in Africa. It's quite disturbing when you see Africa, and then when you live in a advanced country, then now you in Africa, you find out what is absolutely wrong. So, when you arrive in the airport, how were you treated at the airport in Kigali?
First thing that surprised me, I have a normally regular job too. I work for Bank of America. So when
Okay.
they asked me, where do you work? I said, I work for Bank of America. They say, are you an actor? They say, you are an actor, right? That's the first thing they told me. So they knew it. I think that the information here is very extensive. It's not very hard to find what, if I'm an actor, if you Google my name. But they knew already who I was. So that was the first impression. And the second impression is the speed. The speed, and they were very courteous, and then very well organized. Welcome, you feel home. But they are very strict. Because this is not the first time that I came here. During the lockdown, because one day I came here, when they say the curfew is at 7 p.m., everybody is home at 7 p.m. The population is very disciplined, very strict. They wear masks on the street. It doesn't matter if they are individually or not. On the street, if they're by themselves. They respect the law, they follow it. They don't
I'm
feel
glad
like
you
they're
brought
pushing.
that issues about the law, and one thing about, and you mentioned about respect for institution, and you talk about 7 p.m. and everyone respect, that is what the law. And when you come back here in the United States, it's almost identical. So what can you tell the rest of African countries that there seems not?
What was the last word again you said? I'm sorry.
I say, yeah, I say I'm very glad you brought the issues of corruptions. And but in Rwanda, that corruption is non-existent. So what about the rest of the other countries? How can they learn from
Because,
the
yeah, but
lawyers?
first of all, I give a lot of credit to the President Kagame. I give him a
Exactly.
lot of credit. You know what I mean? The example always comes from the top. Comes from the top. If the top is corrupted, the bottom will follow. It's always like that. That's the case. You're gonna see him on the street, cleaning the street with them, doing the jogging, what I mean, like fitness, showing by example. When you are the leader who leads the example, who doesn't stay in the basement, you don't know where he is for years, you don't ever know if he's alive or not. When the leader is very active, people follow. It's simple. I think it's a formula to duplicate, okay, to duplicate in different countries. And one thing
Absolutely.
that I did learn here in this country, the first time I came here, I saw a young lady. I asked her, "Are you Tutsi or Hutu?" She said, "I'm Rwanda. I'm from Rwanda. I'm Rwandese." I asked her again the question. She said, "I'm Rwandese." That's it. Never asked me that again. So the conscience of being part of one nation, to being
Absolutely.
one, is very important. Because when it's the case, nobody will feel marginalized. Okay? No matter what language you speak, no matter, no matter,
Where you come from?
no matter the ethnic group you are in, when people feel part of one nation, they are not marginalized. There's no problem. So this leader did put that conscience in people's mind that we are one. There's no tribe, nothing. We're one. I'm very impressed.
I'm glad for that.
Yes.
That very important point that you brought about someone you met on the street and you tried to get some their own impressions about whether if what the president is saying is a reality, and you got exactly the clarification you need. You know, you ask whether if it belongs to Tutsi or uh, and the person clearly give his her mind that I am a Rwandan, not what you think. And I'm glad, you know. So, what do you think about the rest of the other countries? And I know we, as for in fact, has a problem that is going, which is not a main topic of our discussion. What can they learn from it?
Nobody will learn from it. The problem, as I told you, um, with, what the other countries learn from it, I don't know if any other country learned from it. I think Ghana is doing very well. I think so. But the problem that we have, as I told you, we need to change the mentality, our mentality. We need to change it. We need to think about the common interest of everybody. If one tribe and if a little group of people, okay, tap into resources and the rest has nothing, that will create problems. That will create problems. That's the way it is. But if everybody feels part of the group equally, there's no problem. And that's what's happening, for example, in Cameroon. I'm sorry, I know you call Cameroon neighboring country or something like that, but I understand that. You understand that. But what I'm trying to say is that the problem happening now, which is happening now, is the problem of marginalization. Okay, that's a problem. Okay, you need to respect the majority. You need to listen. Part of the leadership, a great leader is a leader who listens. I remember how I understand that you do. By the way, I'll tell you what. I listen to your show because your fight is an intellectual fight. You want to go to the United Nations, you want to follow the process, normal process, intellectual process, in the genuine way to resolve the problem. You don't want to go cut the head of people in the bush or whatever, go shoot people in a classroom or burn a house or do things like that. No. I like that intellectual approach to trying to solve the problem. Okay? For the case, if I listen to you, if you have a doubt, okay, that, okay, the unification was illegal, go through the process. Same like Bakassi came back to Cameroon, went through the process. And you know what I mean? And he came back to Cameroon. So that's what I want. I like that in you. So you always go through the intellectual way. You don't go through, like for example, shooting people in Kumba, innocent people, or cutting the head of one woman, or something like that, which doesn't go in favor of the international community to support your case. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't happen. I'm not saying that the Cameroonian government is doing a good thing. I'm not saying that. No. But the response shouldn't be burying people alive. Or you know what I mean? And
yeah, absolutely.
Should be the response. Or maybe I'm still against that. Preventing children from going to school. You can't use the children as a leverage to defend the cause. You can't sacrifice their future for that. Because what is happening right now, a lot of young kids who are pregnant, who are giving babies because they haven't been to school for a long time. They are giving birth to a new generation of people who will not know their father. you know, and the people who are instigating that, some of them, I know them, they are overseas. When their children graduate, they display the pictures everywhere on Facebook. Oh, my child just graduated. When at the same time they prevent all the children back home not to go to school. I think that's what I don't agree.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, in terms of facts, when I began to engage in this Southern Cameroon questions, this problem could have been resolved. Like you and I who sit here and say, okay, Daniel, this is where we disagree, this is where we agree. We open it through a platform and a conversations. You give me your points. Okay, this is what we think so, and we can resolve our differences. In a very simple manner. But when the structure in place don't seem to recognize that there is a problem, one thing is the first thing is to recognize that there is a problem, and once they recognize there is a problem, then you can move to the next step to find out what is the problems. And when you identify that this is the problems, now you go back to the next step. How can we resolve these problems? But when you selectively that you know the problems and that you don't want to consult another party and you think that you can resolve the problems, that is where you create another next conflict. You see? So the problem can be resolved, but the problem is there are certain individuals within the regime that they believe they can suppress. Remember that you can't suppress, but you can resolve a problem if you recognize the problems. Once you recognize the problems, and then you select people. There is one thing with the system in place is because they think they can suppress and impose their will. That is a no-no. Even your child at home, try to take a moment and listen to your child's opinion. You will realize how smart they are if you can take a time and listen to your child, your daughter, your son. Say, what you say something when I was stepping out, I was trying to go to work, and you say something. What did you actually mean? And pay close attention. You will realize that there's a little thing, no matter that you are the parents, you know everything, but you did not know the little thing your daughter or your child is saying. So the simple thing is, when you have, like they say, the ministers, relatively, in fact, they don't actually represent the Anglophone. In fact, they are not. But if you can say, okay, this is our country. Okay, let's sit up and discuss what do we want for our country. Then we will have a level of playing field, and everyone will have an open mind, and everyone will speak freely with that cohesion. And you will realize that we will set up a solid foundation that all of us can move forward. But when you think you know everything and that you're going to suppress everyone, instead you create another more different dynamic cultural aspect that you cannot suppress. Imagine in a country when you have lawyers, the judges, those are key members of your country. And if you identify, no matter whatever country you are, not just Cameroon or elsewhere, when you see these certain individuals, the intellectuals, are demonstrating, it means there is a problem. As a leader of that country, invite them, give the level of playing field to be free without cohesion. And when you allow the level of playing field without cohesion, you will realize that the people will bring ideas for the common good of the nation. And that is the point, you know. First of all,
that's where the government was wrong. Because
absolutely,
I remember
absolutely
that moment,
indeed, you know.
I remember that moment when the lawyers and the teachers were manifesting for a legitimate cause. You can't, have a French trained judge, to rule a court, after an Anglo-Saxon court. That's two different systems.
Absolutely.
Okay, like for example, you can't have a French-speaking teachers to go teach in the Anglophone region. What are people going to learn?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It could have been resolved. It should have been resolved by violence. That's what when things escalated.
Absolutely. Okay, just imagine that.
But
Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
it could have been when I wish that when this problem was solved in a peaceful manner because they were legitimate. But the response was the violence. Okay, we're not listening to you, we're not gonna listen to you, we're just gonna scatter you. That's it. That's not what a leader should do. A leader should listen to his people.
Absolutely.
And that created the sense of marginalization for Anglophone. And now Anglophone say, you know what, we want to be on our own. That's it.
Let me tell you one example. Ahijo arrived in Bamenda. He wants to see the phone of Nsor. The phone of Nsor replied to the message. Ahijo, he was in Bamenda. He says, I am in my palace. We have a very strong culture. No doubt about it. There's nothing you can dismiss it, The phone of Nsor said, I will need to see him in my palace. I don't go and visit somebody in palace. And that is, what did Ahijo do? Ahijo respected, and he took his helicopter from Bamenda to Nsor and met the phone of Nsor. So that is a leader that knew that he decided to remove his coat, his suit, like the one that I am putting on, and hang it somewhere and go down to the level of every individual and listen to opinion.
That's what the leader should do.
Exactly.
The leader shouldn't be hiding in the basement. Or maybe somewhere disappear. Or maybe spend time only overseas. Like months and months overseas. If you can't do the job, let somebody else do the job. Simple as it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let somebody else do the job. If you can't work, let somebody do the job.
Exactly.
And then,
exactly.
If you can't, that's a problem. That's the main problem. But I just hope that no matter what the issue is, my concept is the peace. That's what I need, the peace. So women, innocent children, and men stop dying. I said it doesn't matter, the military or the civilians stop dying because they are family, they are human beings. Stop dying. No matter what the issue is.
Absolutely. This problem could have been resolved. And even now, the one thing with dictatorship, they believe that they have the power and that for some imaginary, they're going to suppress. And that is one thing for sure. That is their belief. I mean, it's... Okay, you can see what the recent... I don't know if you've read the European Parliament talking about dialogue, but in fact, there is nothing that can be resolved. Of course, like you mentioned it earlier, that you work with Bank of America. I mean, there are crises that you cannot go and start firing people. You look at the cause of the problems, and you try to resolve the crisis within the leadership. You don't go and firing people. You look at, okay, what is the problem? You have a crisis department that try to resolve things when it arises. And in my own job, I work too. I am not just the broadcasting. you know, and we have a crisis team where there is an issue. We look at the crisis and we look where we went wrong and we identify the problems and we prevent future unintended consequences, you know. And so every situation requires a crisis team to take a look at the problem. How can the problem be resolved and prevent a future crisis, you know? You don't go and start firing people and dismissing people and say, no, that is not the way of approach. You have to look at who are these categories of people. In this case, lawyers, magistrates, judges. That is a high categories of people within the society. And you don't send people like gendarmerie, police, that probably they don't even have a first degree. They don't even have a high school diploma. And you are sending this guy to go and intimidate people of these categories. And this shouldn't happen in the first place.
True. People in charge of the country or in power need to understand that they are there to serve the population. They are there to serve the population. You know, they don't know it's not their country alone. It's the country everybody. Everybody has a right. They don't understand that. That's why in America they talk about taxpayers. Taxpayers. We pay taxes. We are in tax. That means we have the right. We are the one paying them. It's our resources. We are the one paying them. They are using our resources. We don't have the right to oppress us. We don't have the right. And then we need to know our right. That's very important. Anglophones need to know their right in that country. Need to know the right. And that's what they were trying to exercise. Exercise the right to have certain concerns fixed. But the government did close their eyes and thought that the violence will be the best thing to do. This is what's happening now. It's a cow, it's a mess. It's a mess. But I believe that great people like you who use very genuine way to resolve the problem. I hope that the government is going to invite you to sit down and try to see what the solution is. As I told you, whatever the outcome is, that's not my issue. My issue is that people stop dying from that crisis and young people resume schools. I understand that, you know, in terms of infrastructure, it's a mess.
It's absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you just imagine traveling here in the US and then you go home, you look at the total mess of infrastructure and you listen to some individuals, they have 500 billion in their private account. I mean, it will upset you. I mean, I live here in Texas, you know, I call it the great state of Texas, because, I mean, when I get out here, I imagine the structure of the road. I drive freely, and imagine you travel back home. It's a totally mess. But, you know, this can be done. Infrastructure can be done, you know. If we take a step, look at what is the virus and how can we, you know, instead of suppressing individuals that can inject a change, it's not the right way to do it. You know, it's not the right way to do it.
No.
You know?
No. It's not the right way to do it. But let me tell you something, sir.
Yeah.
Rwanda, in 1994, went through the worst case possible. Look at how this business turned everything around. Look at how this business turned everything around. Do you know, let me tell you something. Do you know that the Northwest and the Southwest altogether, when you call Southern Cameroons, do you know it's way bigger than Rwanda? Way bigger. Rwanda is 26,000 square kilometers only.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't even know about that.
Yes,
wow.
Only. The entire Cameroon, or whatever you call it, neighboring country, or whatever, Republique, or whatever. You know, the entire land with the Cameroon, including English or French, is 475,000. So that's like 18 times Rwanda. It's in that. There are some provinces alone, like the East province, is maybe twice Rwanda. The East province of the East, it could be a country on its own.
I mean, but those are the things that I look at in myself. I look at, I mean, we are here in these advanced nations. We look at how did they develop? What is something different from us, Africa, that we cannot ameliorate? And I think those are the key things that when you're doing this, you are projecting, you are moving. You try to bring those qualities so that people can see. I mean, United States, we have Africans, we have blacks here, and we have all these leaders, we have all these skills. What is different that they have utilized to make this world to become what it is? How can Africa learn from those experiences and change the dynamic? I am not really want to insult for Christians. I know when I speak, people think that I'm biased against Christians. I am not biased about Christians, but I am very honest and frank to myself. We train more pastor than we train engineer.
Let me tell you something. You and I, we live in the United States. That's a very important question. When you ask somebody like you, your children, they are Americans, right? They were born there. My children are American. But when I ask, for example, when I ask your children, where are you from? You're going to say, I'm from Texas. My children, they were born in West Virginia. Where are they from? They will say, I'm from West Virginia. But when they say, they know that they are American. It doesn't take away the fact that they belong to America. Entirely. Same like I said in Rwanda, I asked that lady, she said, Rwandese.
Absolutely.
That's the truth. It doesn't matter. Look and see you're from the West, you're from the South, but Cameroonian first. That's what it should have been in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I know the struggle, for example, of Anglophone in Cameroon. People making fun of them the way they speak or whatever. Sometimes they had, although they love Cameroon before the crisis, because the majority of my friends here in the United States, even now, they're still Anglophone. Before the crisis, nobody loved Cameroon more than Anglophone. Nobody loved Cameroon more than Anglophone. I tell that, I mean it. Nobody took pride of being Cameroonian more than Anglophones. But I believe that this government, if this government changes, okay, and have a more sympathy, listen more, as you said, to listen is a skill. Not everybody listens. And we Africans, we talk more than we listen. That's a problem. Listen to the problem, bring them to the table, and the president, if he can leave the basement, I don't know where he lives, and come to Lamenda, or maybe to Brahmin, or maybe to Buea in person, not to send back to the prime minister, who was nominated at the same time with the ministers. It doesn't make sense. You can't nominate a prime minister with the minister at the same time. The prime minister is the one who composed the government. You know what I mean? Who put in place the government. And so my point is this: if the government listens to more, I know your wish is to have a state called Ambazonia or whatever, Southern Cameroon. For me, it's not an issue for me. I don't care. To be honest with you, I just want people not to continue dying anymore. That's all. Okay. If during your process it works, that in 1961 it was a mistake, and then they fix it, and then Southern Cameroon happened, no problem to me. If there's peace, I will look for citizenship for Southern Cameroon. Maybe I will have dual citizenship. Yes.
You know, you
You
know.
know, I don't have any problem with that. But if the decision is that federalism or is only one Cameroon, provided that people don't get killed or whatever, fine with me. Fine with me. And then what is very important is the respect to people. The respect of people by the leaders. The leaders need to understand that no matter what if they get in charge, fraudulently or not, they need to know that they are there to serve the people. Otherwise, they have no right to be there. They have to get out, get out of the way. You know what I mean? I still believe that after this life, there's a life, there's a judgment. So no matter what they do, God will judge them. Okay? They need to be careful. They need to be careful. You can't play with human beings like that. You know? You can't play with human beings like that. I don't want somebody to get a curse that will fall over the innocent children, his own children. That's not good. So I think that if the leadership changes, or maybe the next government is more open, if we have a president who doesn't just stay in the basement or whatever to avoid the COVID or whatever, I don't know, who's inexistent, who will always sit down in the palace, doesn't go nowhere, you know, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So in my mind, I still believe that the problem can be solved if we have an active leader. As I say, no matter the outcome. And also, if everybody fighting for that justice, if they were thinking like you know, go contact maybe the senators, congressmen in the United States to give a pressure, or something like that, or maybe the UN. I think it's a genuine and very effective way to solve problems. It didn't happen with Bakassi. Bakassi came back to Cameroon with that, not with the war. It didn't happen. You know what I mean? I understand that you're going to say, okay, South Sudan, how did they get the independence? They got the independence maybe fighting Eritrea. How did they get the independence? They get the independence fighting. They got the independence fighting. What about the Yugoslavia when they had the friction? True war. But let me tell you what. Let me tell you what. We don't want bloodshed. We don't want that. We still believe that the government has the chance to catch up and fix the mistakes, bring on the table genuine people like you. Try to persuade them not to call Cameroon the neighboring country. you know, I remember at the beginning, I remember how you started with this. That was and people started calling that. So really, I think you are a very, very good person. I wish that all the leaders, on the Francophone side, working to resolve this problem, we're using but as I said, I'm sure that you don't agree with all this killing in Tumba, go and randomly shoot people in the classroom. For what reason? What did they do? What did they have anything to do with? Or maybe to bury a woman alive because of her opinion? You can't do that. You can't force people. We need to put human being before anything else. That's what I always say. We need to put the human being.
What you said is true. What you said is exactly true. You can resolve a crisis, and La Republique has the pen, it has the paper, and it has everything at their disposal. So you have what we call the Naira 10, the leaders of formerly the leaders of the Southern Cameroon. You arrest them,
Yes.
you place them in jail, you condemn them to life imprisonment. In fact, they did not even think, they did not even reflect on their mind. They have their own perception. Oh, la République, le Cameroun est la République est unitaire. Cameroon is a unitary state. In fact, does it merit? Of course, that is not true. They could have said, okay, release them and release them. Say, okay, put everything placed on the table. And what country do we want? Put everything on the table. Do not restrict. Do let the forces of law and disorder, let them stay in their barrack. Let's put a foundation. Film actor like you say, okay, what kind of foundation do we want? And we put that structure in place, and we bound by that structure. Then you will see a rise. Tomorrow we might be competing with Kigali, where you are speaking from now, Rwanda. Yes. But when you try to restrict people, try to suppress them, you all know in history, Metternich, Metternich in Austria, if I'm not mistaken in my quote, he tried to suppress the revolution. But what did he do? He built a more solid. We learn from education.
Yes.
Even in US where we live, when the British government imposed taxes on the US citizens, they said, but you cannot be living in UK and impose taxes on citizens of the United States. We don't even have a elected member of our citizens, member of citizens of the United States in UK Parliament. Why will you impose us taxes when we don't have an elected member on your UK Parliament? So, you know, so the Southern Cameroon question is not different. Why will you not allow the people to elect their own people? You want to select a certain categories of people to believe to represent the people of Southern Cameroon. Of course, that is not what we want. We want, look, we have the best government in West Africa. We have the first elected prime minister was Endele, was elected from Southern Cameroon. And he represented the prime minister. The next was Jongu Foncha, the second prime minister, was elected. Third was Ngumjua, was the prime minister elected from Southern Cameroon. La Republique has it in the first of its kind in West Africa as a whole. Maybe they don't bring this into historical facts. Then, you know, so we believe in a free government. We believe that the people have a voice. But on the contrary, with this French system, especially from France, in fact, you know that Ahidjo initially was not supposed to be the one to form a government. It was the UPC that was supposed to form a government because they have elected 26 members of parliament. But that member of parliament was suppressed by France and banned UPC. But we can't go into those history now, okay? You know, but anyway, you know, so you see, it's a long history, you know. But let's talk about your movie. So what do you want to tell people about what are they expecting from Kigali? So my audience are watching. What are they expecting from you from Kigali?
Oh, first of all, I'm very welcome in Kigali. I met I met many filmmakers and celebrities, local celebrities in Kigali, because I need to, if I want really to succeed in filmmaking here, I need to connect myself with them. I need to associate myself with them because they are already established. So they are very, very, very excited to work with me, to my production company. So we're gonna start. I'm gonna start receiving project that is soon, and then so I can put it into production, even in their local language. Wow. That's a beautiful language.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's what they speak everywhere. Their language. I don't even know what their name is. I don't know. They speak. That's something that we could have done in Cameroon too, in order to wipe out the difference. Because this president, you remember, Rwanda used to speak only French.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, you're right.
The new generation is Anglophone. That's something that we could have done in Cameroon, just to make maybe the country totally Anglophone. And then when you talk to a French guy, Southern Cameroon, say, where? Hey, where? Matter of fact, my brothers who live in Cameroon, all their children they go to Anglophone schools. They are all Anglophone. Totally. Totally. Because that's a better system. It's up to you. That's even rich people. Remember, other people in the government, they send their kids in the English school.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
You're absolutely
So,
right.
so that's something that could be really duplicated. But let me tell you what something I like about Rwanda. They always speak their language wherever you go. At the point that sometimes they don't understand English. It's something so beautiful. You ask a question like this morning. I went to a TV interview, I think Channel 10, TV 10. I tried to take the taxi. The guy had no clue about what I was talking about. He said, I said, what did I do? No. I had to explain to him what I'm trying to, So the local language is a national language. Same like when you go to Bangladesh. You can speak Bangladesh everywhere. I think most people will understand Bangladesh.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you this. Coming back to the problem in Cameroon or whatever you call it, Republique or neighboring country or whatever, Southern Cameroon, I still believe that no matter what the form of government comes, separation or whatever, I think it will be, we have a great future together. We have a great future. I know that. We have a great future. We need to put faith in God too. I think we have a great future. Because you see, the violence is declining, which is a good thing. As I said, my main concern is people dying. Some people die. That's my main concern.
Okay.
Countries always change in the form. Countries always change. If you look at the United States, the superficie was not always the same. I think Texas was bought, from Mexico, right? I think Texas belonged to Mexico before.
Yes,
and they bought it.
Texas succeeded and to become initially Texas was and then it succeeded. I think in 1948 or 1848 or something, and then they still joined back United States. Yeah, you're right.
That's without dollars. What I'm saying, without dollars. So what I'm saying is that no matter what, there is a separation, whatever, or maybe unity or whatever. My concern is just blood. That's just my concern. Countries always change. They change. The point is that if you look at the Cameroon with the king when Germany colonized, hey, one part of Cameroon is in Nigeria, one part is in Equatorial Guinea, one part is in Gabon, one part is in Congo, I guess so. One part is the Central African Republic. It was way bigger than that. The leaders now, because of what they are doing, because they are not listening, Cameroon is about to shrink again. They're about to shrink again. And so I believe that but let me ask you a question. I would like to ask you a question, a personal question. What makes you believe that people went online to create a website called Republique of Ambazonia? What makes you believe that they represent the Southern Cameroon? I can create a website myself. And who mandated them to do that? That's a question I would like to ask you.
Oh, okay. Let me.
Because I can still consider them self-proclaimed leaders. That means they went, I saw the website with the government. You can't wake up in the morning and then you create a website. It's just a website. And then you create a website and then you say,
Let me
okay,
clarify.
you're the leader
On
of.
that point. Yes.
Okay.
As a citizens of Southern, let's say a citizen of Southern Cameroon, it doesn't matter which place you come from. You know, you were born there, you grew up there, you are inherited an identified culture in which you grew up, and you believe that as a citizen of Southern Cameroon. So it doesn't matter whether. Let me give you a typical example. When South Korea and North Korea, they were still under one decision, but they were still fighting to separate. North Korea, the South Korea, their government, maybe you're probably going to explore more in this area, but that's what I'm giving you. So the government of South Korea was based in Shanghai, China.
Wow.
So they have a structure that represents South Korea as a government, while they were still fighting with North Korea. So when the North Korea finally separate and South Korea, that government has a transition to become the government of South Korea. And now,
who appointed that government? It has to come from the people.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Who appointed that
The
government?
government derives its power from the people. So the people decided that, let's say, for example, without the lawyers and demonstration and the arrest and torture, probably would not have had an Ambazonia in place. So there is something that usually provokes something. The citizens invoke their own natural power, release that power in place, then try to identify whom they are and portray who they are to represent the structure. So the website, it represents part of those structures to reflect the people of Southern Cameroon.
But let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question. How, if you go ahead and create the same website and nominate a couple of your friends as the governor of Southern Cameroon, and somebody else, maybe your neighbor in Texas, does the same thing?
Remember,
because
who was the first prime minister of Southern Cameroon?
I'm sorry, what did you say again?
During the time of British administrative authority, who was the prime minister of Southern Cameroon, if you can know? I did call his name during this discussion earlier.
Was it John Bufanta?
No, that was Endele, Dr. Endele, the first prime minister of
Dr. Endele,
the British administration. But
yes.
Do you know that he was the person that organized citizens of Southern Cameroon to represent Anglophone interest during the time of the British administration? So he was a citizen of Southern Cameroon. He organized, and eventually, to make that government solid, he organized an election and he presented himself as a candidate. And he was elected.
Thank you. Thank you. But these people like Ayutabe, how did they get elected? How did that happen? Do you think that the people of Southern Cameroon, do they know them? Yes.
Let
me ask you a question.
No,
the legitimacy is based on what?
Listen.
Yes.
There are citizens of Southern Cameroon. And they organized themselves just as Endele organized. So, but La Republique did not know the impact of them, what they're going to become. But instead, La Republique think that do you know about AAC1?
Sorry.
Do you know about
Yes.
AAC1? The All Anglophone Conference that was held in Boya.
Okay.
La Republique did not take note of that. La Republique do it. The All Anglophone Conference that was held in Boya, the first they call AAC1. It was presided over by the former Prime Minister, Jongu. He's now of late. Jongu Fonja was in that meeting.
Okay.
So, La Republique did not take note of the impact. They think they're just going to suppress. Then that came and went. They called another All Anglophone Conference too. La Republique did not even think or reflect. So if La Republique had knowledge and reflection, they would have think that there is something coming ahead of this. Instead, they try to suppress. So every citizen of Southern Cameroon are entitled to, like me, I'm a citizen of the US, but I'm also a citizen of Southern Cameroon. So I am entitled by the power of me being a Southern Cameroon to organize, just like you. Let me give a scenario. There is what they call, there was something circulating they call the Republic of Grassfield, which was made up of a Western province. I don't know if you have any idea about it. But here is the distinction between Southern Cameroon and the Republic of Grassfield. Their hope was to question the validity because many Bamilekes or they feel that they were being suppressed, marginalized, even though they have a strong economic principles. But the difference between the Republic of Grassfield, which is Western province, which never materialized, and Southern Cameroon is because Western province originally was part of La Republique during the 1960s, when the United Nations allowed them to become a territory on its own. Whereas Southern Cameroon was not part of La Republique. So that is a great distinction. So every citizen of Southern Cameroon has a mandate to stand and speak, irrespective of wherever the person is. So they were in Nigeria when these incidents, when the lawyers were broke out, then they start questioning themselves, why should we don't have a voice to speak in La Republique du Cameroun. So if we don't have a voice, then there's something wrong somewhere. Because first, there is no document that authorized La Republique the ownership of Southern Cameroon. There is no legal document exists anywhere. Because I have done those research, and you, as a filmmaker, you can do more research and you get more contact than I do, you know. But however, there is no document that says, remember, I don't have the paper here, it says when the United Nations, after the vote of when Britain presented Southern Cameroon to the United Nations to become a sovereign state, but this is what the United Nations asked. The government of Southern Cameroon should initiate an urgent discussion with the government of La Republique du Cameroun. It's if you want, I can bring you detail of that document and then you will see, and then you read it yourself. Let me in a later time, but I don't have it now, but I will bring it. So, La Republique and Southern Cameroon will never initiate that dialogue. It doesn't exist anywhere. The referendum they called in 1972, it was a fraud. Have you read the content of that document? It says, this is how the form read. The vote was saying yes in English and we in French. So if you were to vote, tell me which form will you choose to vote? Yeah, that's the reality. If you were to vote an Anglophone, which form will you pick? Yes in English, we in French. So which one will you pick?
So they will not know?
They will not know. There wasn't.
You kidding?
So those are the things that they just keep hidden. That's why the history Republique du Cameroon is never told in school because all those things are being kept hidden and they're not fully aware. You can imagine. So that they constantly fraud every avenue, till finally it bursts now. You see.
So that's why I'm telling that the way you are trying to, your demarche is very genuine and is the best way. Because you're doing it in the peaceful way. Okay, to try to let the United Nations know that this is what happened and to try to fix it if it's fixable. But because my concern is that all these powerful countries involved at that time, like France or British, they're not involved, they don't care. They don't say anything about that. That's the big problem.
They know the truth, but they know the truth. Let me tell you. You know why I involved? I knew France. France is very. You remember when Ivory Coast president tried to reform Ivory Coast? You know what France did? Because they opposed France. France immediately started bomb the place. One U.S. senator, which I've forgotten his name, he was so mad about it. He said, why did France even go and bomb Ivory Coast? Why? Because he initiated a reform that was contrary to France. So, on the Southern Cameroon question, why you see I am more focused on the international community, I have a reason. Because when this crisis erupted, France wanted La Republique to declare, because you know when La Republique was saying, ce sont les terroristes, that was the language France framed with La Republique, so that they use it and give them lavish, so that they can come and bomb Southern Cameroon to suppress this thing. So that gave me the possibility to ask, okay, so let's come to the reality. Who is France in Southern Cameroon? Absolutely not. France has nothing.
True.
So that is why you see I begin to dig all those stories, histories, and try to release them. In fact, when UPC was banded by France and Niger, when did the UPC leaders took an asylum in Southern Cameroon? They were fighting for an asylum in Southern Cameroon. Today we become a foreigner in our own territory. You know?
I see. But do you think that the best solution is to go back to where it was? It has been so long. You know, it has been so long. It's better to just move forward and then just try to find a solution to live in peace.
The problem is the regime. They think they can use war and suppress. That is their goal. But unfortunately, that is where things get tricky.
That regime is not going to last forever. How old is he? How old is he? He's like 87 years old.
Oh, Pobia.
The president. Yes.
I think he's 87 or 88 or how old is that? Look.
Okay, he's not going to live forever. So that regime will be coming one day.
To be honest with you, he doesn't know what is going on. They are using him as a figurehead. The people that are making that war proceed is not even Pobia, because in reality, he is not even aware of what is going on in that country. There are key individuals. One, Ngongo, the Secretary General at the presidency. The Jean-Betty Assomo, the defense minister. This guy, the Jana Marie, and me, who is the colonel Emile. There are certain individuals that are within the government. Even the prime minister, they call, they say he's an anglophone. He's just a figurehead. He has no power. He's just there like a figurehead. Because if he was a prime minister, when those things were going on, he would have done
I give him some credit.
So he's simply just a figurehead. You know? So Ngongo and Ngongo, the Secretary General, the current Secretary General at the presidency,
Yes.
is the one that is spearheading all this atrocity that is going on in Southern Cameroon. And he believed that they're going to use military to suppress. But unfortunately, he got it wrong. The more this progress, the more Ambazonia become more sophisticated. That is the plain truth, to be honest with you. You know?
True. But as I said, the peaceful solution is the better thing.
Exactly.
Like, for example, what you're doing, for example, maybe, yes, it's not by going to cut off the head of people, burying them alive, no. So for real, something like that. That makes the revolution look very bad and bad and bad. You know?
And some other thing that you
nobody will be part of it.
Yeah. Some other thing that you don't know.
But let me ask you a question.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
I don't mean to interrupt you, I'm so sorry.
No, you're
now,
good.
There are many branches. Chief Marshal, General PT, Ayutabe, with the government online, and I don't know, so many people. Who is the leader? Oh, what about, how do you call that? The guy in the US who used to talk a lot. What's his name?
Chris?
That young guy. I forgot his name. You know, he used to talk, I forgot his name. He used to talk a lot. He used to be part of the consortium or something like that. With Chief Barretta or whatever. Barretta. Yes.
With Mark Barrett.
All these guys, I don't know who is the leader. Finally. Yeah, I don't know who is the leader. Who is the leader? Each revolution needs to have one leader. Who is the leader? Who listens to who? So that's a big problem too. So let's say the government wants to
questions. We have
to discuss.
Doctor, remember, Ayub Tabe did not have any military at the time when he was picked up by La Republique. He hasn't endorsed the military solution, but he says that could be part of his platform before he was picked up. So now the current IG leader is Dr. Sako, and he is the person in charge of the restoration force that are currently in Southern Cameroon territory that are fighting. And that's the person, if you want to talk with him. So because all those yes.
No, I see now I understand.
Yes.
So that means all these military people are listening to him.
Absolutely.
So they're not acting on their own.
Absolutely not. So
as I saw you again, this I think should be the best solution. If they can come, if they can invite him to come to the table to talk, maybe things will work fine. Nothing is wrong with having a country with two languages. Nothing is wrong with that.
There is an organization they call the Swiss Talk. Is there. La Republique is refusing to send U.S. government, State Department, if you can read the document written by U.S. Congress, they still confirm that the Swiss Talk is there in Switzerland. But La Republique is refusing. Like I told you that Ngongo, who is the Secretary General of the Presidency, let him send representative to the Swiss talks and endorse it and see what avenue.
But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
If part of the Swiss talk is to be part of Cameroon, is it an option? How will you be satisfied or not satisfied with that? Because you keep talking about the fraud that happened, and then Southern Cameroon should have been on its own, a nation alone, a country. Absolutely. Now, if in the peace talks, the government says, you know what, we are one. We are one nation. Okay, this is what's going to happen. No more discrimination. No more marginalization, no more this. How will you feel about that? Will you, is it an option that you think that can be possible?
Well, if the president is saying that by doing something, that would have been making sense. You realize that in Condé, all political prisoners are citizens of Southern Cameroon, but all fraud for bank and embezzlement are French citizens. So why not he began by releasing them, all of them, the political prisoners of Southern Cameroon, release them free. And then before come in and they talk, say, yes, this country belongs to us. So let's sit up and design a country we all love. You can't keep
Yeah, but let me tell you
because of
something.
political crisis. And then you come and tell us, so the ball is still in La Republique court. Let him show exemplary behavior by doing those things, releasing all the political prisoners they have that are not financial embezzler, then release them so that when you come to Swiss talk and talk, then people will have an open mind, say, okay, you make clear reason, and people will try to see. Me, I am an open mind. That's why I talk with everybody. I look everybody as my brother. I'm talking to you. I don't have no personal problem. We can eat, laugh, but let La Republique be honest by doing clearly. Release all the political prisoners they have in Condé. Because Anglophone prisoners are all a prisoner of political conscience. Whereas you have La Republique citizens where they are embezzler. How many citizens of Southern Cameroon are embezzler in Condé? Probably one or two.
Maybe in only a frame of, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, there will be a dialogue, and the dialogue cannot come from Southern Cameroon because we already open. There is a place we are already represented at the Swiss talks. Let them show some gesture. Release all the political prisoners that you held them all. Okay, let's take for example. Our brother just died in a chain, but their own prisoner was released by presidential decree to go and attend a hospital when he died in a hospital. Tell me, how will you feel as a citizen of Southern Cameroon that advocate for independence? Will you feel when you see a brother, political of conscience, question the validity of, and to build a platform that we all will enjoy? I mean, you are in Kigali. That money you're spending in a hotel. Imagine if you were in Cameroon, you would have been spending that money in there. But you see, what I'm saying is that, it's still part of Africa that you can travel. But that room is not there.
True.
We all want a beautiful place where we all enjoy, that we can spend. We have a very few time in this planet Earth that we will live. But we cannot concentrate and hold on to a power as though we are not going to die. We are going to die anyway. But when we have power, let's liberate it in such a way that all of us benefit, for the common good of mankind,
I say it makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah.
But as I said, this government is not going to last forever. I hope that the next one will be more open. Will be more open to dialogues and then get the problem solved. We have a lot of resources, more than Rwanda. There's no reason why we don't do better than this one. There's no reason why. But they are doing very well. I would like you to come here and see it yourself.
Absolutely, I will.
And as I said, I believe that it's going to be escalated. And no matter what the outcome is, the bloodshed is going to be avoided. And I still want to encourage children to go to school. It's a human right. Nobody has the right to tell the children not to get education. Because let me tell you something. If Ambazonia becomes independent, the people gonna be leader are gonna be people of your gonna be your children in the future who were born in Texas. They went to good schools there. When people of their generation, kids of their generation, did not go to schools, were local. These guys, these kids are getting sacrificed not to go to school. They cannot lead, so they're gonna be second-class citizens, and that's not fair.
No, you are absolutely right. I mean, indeed, you are absolutely right. But now, let me tell you, in Boya, I think almost 3 weeks, if I'm not mistakenly ago, a mother carried a child. I think she was 9 years old. And I'm sure if somebody is watching, will probably correct me. In Boya, not up to 3 or 4 weeks ago, a child with her mom was shot. That was taken to school. How will you react? How will you feel the pain? It's not that they don't want school, and if you listen to the Dr. Sako's point that the parents should decide what they want, you know, but they're not refusing that school should not resume. But what about the boys, the men, the young guys? Some of them are not actually those fighting within the Ambazonian forces, but some of them, because by virtue of the fact that they are men, is subject to killing by the military. In Bamenda, not up to 1 week ago, another student was shot point blank by the same military that were supposed to be protecting. This child did not have a weapon. This child has nothing. And what would be your reaction if you, as your child, that you find, it's not up to a few days ago. I don't know, because you're going trip, you probably might not have seen all this, you know, a child, I think he's 12 years old, was shot by the military, just by virtue of the fact that he is a male child. A male child in Southern Cameroon is a threat to the Republique, to Cameroon military, irrespective of the age, irrespective of what they do. But as soon as they see, they just kill. Those are the ones that we are able to see. There are some, they just pick them and take them into the forest and kill and just dump it. There are certain images that I can't show here because if I post it on the Facebook, they're going to close my account. I have them, all those facts and evidence. I can't post them on the Facebook because I post them, they're going to shut my Facebook account. So imagine you, as a citizen of Southern Cameroon, you seeing your child, you seeing your fellow family child, you see relatives, distant relatives, being killed by a military they're supposed to protect. What do you feel? It doesn't mean that they hate school, they love school. Of course, you remember that in University of Yaoundé, they were refusing Anglophones to go to University of Yaoundé. They were not even admitting Anglophones into University of Yaoundé. By then, Boya University was never even there. What happens? They had to travel to Nigeria to attend university. You have to bribe the University of Yaoundé before accepting an Anglophone to be accepted in the university. Remember, it was a demonstration that led to the creation of Boya University.
So, I remember that time I went to, I did go to University of Yaoundé,
Yeah.
before it was divided, Yaoundé one, and but there was some slight progress made by the regime, you know, in order to, encourage integration and reduce marginalization. But that was not enough. Like École Normale for, University of Boya, University of Bamenda, all these things. But as I said, the progress was not enough. But I could see some slight progress. But you know what, as you said, the best thing is just to sit on the side and see what's wrong, and then talk as brothers and sisters and get it fixed. But is it going to happen with this regime? I don't know.
Definitely not.
But with the next one, maybe that was, as I said, this regime is not going to last forever. This president is not going to last in power forever. Mugabe tried that. Even if Mugabe was not removed, he would have been dead at that time. When his time came, when is your time? You go. That's why we human beings we need to be humble. We are not super people. Death is what makes everybody equal. So this government needs to do something. Actually, something. Bring people on the table and get this, and then talk about that. And maybe they will persuade you not to say the neighboring country anymore. You say, oh, my country. Because I see you, I watch your show a lot. I see how it's happening. Something I like about you, you're very perfectionist. Okay? You started your show, it was not designed like that. And then the way you were talking and everything, you improved progressively. Now it looks like CNN. When you invite me to a show, I said, oh, I'm honored to be part of this great show.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm always glad, I always see a comment, and you always make comment. That's why I am very good at read comment, and so all your comment you always made, I always draw my attention, and that's why I'm so glad to have you. And I wish you all the best in Kigali. That's Mr. Blaise Christian. That's the film actor. He's currently in Kigali, so you want to stick with him and see what he can do. Maybe, that's one of the Hollywood actor. I mean, he's amazing. I want to appreciate, and I thank you so much for joining me for this live show. I wish you a happy stay in Kigali.
Thank you very much. And also, I would like you and I to brainstorm to make a movie about it. To say the neighboring country became one country. Huh?
Let me know. Anytime I'm open. Your door is open. My door is open too.
Yes. We're going to make it work. Don't worry.
All right. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best. Good night.
Thank you. Good. You too.